This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFLTV. Delighted to be joined by, on the phone, Billy Saunders, former two-weight world champion. All right, mate?
Bit of a bad boy, DJ.
People
KUGAN's
forget,
in the
people
place.
forget you were two-weight world champion.
Coach, you know what? People forget a lot, don't they? People forget a lot. The problem is, in this game, people get used to step ladders and eyeballers and when it's going good, they're around hanging on your left testicle, your right testicle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they just forget you, mate. You know what though? When you wanna have a break from the world of boxing, it's nice, to be honest. I enjoy that. Just to get, you never see me at the shows, you never see me here, there, everywhere. It's nice just to sit back, relax, in your thoughts, chill out, and have a normal life. I think living as a boxer is sort of, it's very hard not to be around it, but it's very peaceful not being around it, if you know what I mean. It's a bit weird.
So who have you actually kept in contact with since 3 years ago?
Uh, Not really. I mean, the lads who I work with and manage, um, you know, McCall, Louis. um, I just keep in contact with them, young Keno, like Tom more through Tom Watts more than myself, but I liaise with them and when I need to and have to.
All right, we'll come on to you in a second. Obviously, the big talking point from the weekend was Daniel Dubois' sensational win and knockout of Anthony Joshua. Who did you pick before the fight, Bill?
I'm not going to lie, Coog. I picked a strong galloping favourite in AJ. Watching him train up close, watching the stuff he was working on, I sort of just looked at it and thought, you know what? He's going to do a job. You remember like Daniel Dubois fights, going back a bit easy to it, and I was thinking, if this man hits anybody, they're in a bit of trouble. And all credit to Daniel's team and to Daniel. They had a game plan and they come in and it got executed. And he had a pub fight basically. He roughed him up. He got in there and he got the job done. Again, heavyweight boxing. If when you land with them little gloves, and a lot of people fail to realise who's never been in the sport. Even trainers really who haven't, been in the sport and have come along, just popped in and, managers and people, oh yeah, but when you're at heavyweight and you put them gloves on and you're in the dressing room and you can feel your knuckle piercing through as middleweight, super middleweight, you're thinking, I wouldn't like to take one of them. But at that weight, like 220 pounds and 216 pounds in, yeah, that's that's a lot of force going through. And it only takes one punch like that to turn a fight completely around. As we see, AJ nearly turned it around himself with one punch, but he's got a little bit reckless and paid the price.
Where did it go wrong for Joshua then? Obviously, he had that difficult first round. He was dropped in that first round, didn't seem to recover from that round one. But in your overall opinion across them rounds, where did it go wrong for him?
um, Look, it's easy for someone to sit back and point out where did it go wrong for him. What you have to look at as well in that moment. Okay, everybody's got a game plan, as Mike Tyson says, until you get punched in the face. But you got like 98,000 screaming fans there, and the atmosphere and the build up and the tension and the emotion. Sometimes, no matter how much experience you got, can overtake. And I just think that maybe AJ overlooked him in the build up, where no disrespect, you know, not being disrespectful at all, but Daniel Dubois, you'll probably have more engagement in a local nursery with the kids. Like, you just being truthful, like, he hasn't got the best humour and he's not the sharpest pencil in the stack, shall we say. But look, and that sometimes, if you're boxing someone like that, that works in his advantage because, you'll think, oh, I'm boxing this man, like, fucking hell. Like, but then obviously you have to bear in mind that he's got his own personality and he's built his structure of who he is today off his own personality. And, he's done very, very well for himself. He's turned himself into a superhero overnight and he's stuck with the game plan. Frank Warren's done a brilliant job. I would like to heard the private call between Frank and Eddie Hearn, that's for sure, the next day, which I'm sure would have happened. But look, at the end of the day, Kugan, this boxing, we're only part of a big circus. We are the animals inside the circus to keep the crowd entertained. And 1 minute, AJ's the best thing since sliced bread. 15 minutes later, he should retire. So you can never, you're never going to keep everybody happy. I think that the event in itself was an absolute, a credit to everybody involved. And I think the fights, really, they all did the event justice.
For Anthony Joshua now, though, obviously he put a video out today saying that, obviously it wasn't his night. He doesn't have any plans to retire. There was a couple of people, Prince Nassim Hamid, Ricky Hatton, and some others that said that it's probably best that Joshua does retire now. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Kugan, it depends because the way you have to look at that, there's more than one way you could look at that. It's easy for someone to say, okay, he's been beat, retire. Yeah, he's got enough money, retire. But that's only for AJ to answer himself. And when you've been as successful as what he's done and what he's done in the sport and the money he's earned, he has to sit down and ask himself this, not for the fans and because people's rubbing him up the wrong way with the comments. The old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And, there's a lot of aspects to look at it because, if there's another 100 million on the table, is he thinking, I'm going to get in there for 36 minutes and take it? Also, then, if you do want to carry on, I think he has to strip back to the thoughts of where he wasn't in the position he was and dreamed about this position he's in, and take forward them same sacrifices, on the GB squad for maybe $1,000 a month, sort of thing, away from everybody, and surrounding yourself with top class athletes and everybody pushing each other on side by side. And everybody likes to go through game plans, but sometimes, and I know boxing's moved on, you've got Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Frazier, all of these old names, Lennox Lewis, Klitschko's. They didn't get to where they got to in life by, just going through. Of course, you've got to go for a game plan, but you have to strip everything back, your lifestyle, the people around you, your training, pushing yourself to the limits. When you're on your runs, you're running and, you feel like dropping to the floor, but you push through and get there and you're beating the times every week. Like, that's the things really you got introduced, I think, back in. And it's very hard to do so when you've been, as successful as what he has, I suppose. I don't think he should retire, no. Do I think that he's good enough to become a free weight world champion? Yes.
Through time.
Would I? Free time. Yeah. Would I back him in the rematch against Daniel Dubois? Yes, I would. Reason being is that I'll be honest with you, anybody can have an off night. Anybody can have an off
We
night.
saw that against Andy Ruiz, which was now 5 years ago. We saw obviously that night at Madison Square Garden, which Joshua suffered his first loss. Put it back with a slightly more defensive, but a defensive performance back in Saudi Arabia, or in Saudi Arabia, should I say. But can we make comparisons to that if he rematches? I mean, there's fighters and styles make fights, obviously, but what are you basing your opinion on there about that rematch?
Well, my opinion is this, and a lot of people won't really get this. The fight fans won't definitely get it. You know, some people involved in boxing won't definitely get it. But when you're in that ring, you're trying to switch your brain on and your soul on to do a job. That is a very hard job. And if you've got 1 inch somewhere that's not switched on 100,000,000% how it should be, your training camp ain't gone how it should have done. I don't know, you've hurt your hand, you've hurt your leg, and that's in your mind. And to be fair, I visited the gym a few times when his training camp was on. Everything looked on point. You know, he was punching the pads, and I was seeing what he was working on, and you know, I thought, right, that's the game plan. He just wasn't switched on. If you see him walk into the ring, when he did the ring walk, he had like a little stumble. And I know you can't really go much on this. Like, Jimmy Tibbs was a very, very big believer. And he kept saying to me, you'll know when you get it one day. It's called tunnel vision. And it's a weird feeling, tunnel vision. I didn't get the tunnel vision sort of vibe off him. And I have seen tunnel vision vibe off him. I've seen tunnel vision vibe when he beat Klitschko. And on his ring walk, I didn't fancy him to beat Klitschko, but when he did his ring walk, I looked at him and I thought, Klitschko's in for a hard night here. And he walked away with the belts. But I don't think he should retire. I do think they should activate the rematch clause. I do think they should be, for his own satisfaction, a straight rematch. There would probably be a couple of little things I would probably change if I was himself moving forward in that fight. You know, the way you got to look at it, AJ is probably one of the, if not the biggest single-handed right hands in boxing. Go straight out there, have a shootout. And I think that may pay big dividends. Forget about the boxing. You know, I know the Olympic pedigree and that's good, and we want to break people down and we want to do this and do that. Sometimes do what the underdog did that night. Do it back and see then, you know, who walks out the best.
Well, listen, obviously we'll see what happens. I'm sure there's other options there for AJ, but obviously that rematch situation is definitely one of them. Whatever happens there, we'll see. It was a bit of a strange week. Not a strange week, but we're not used to having these weeks with all these promoters working together. I'm sure you would have seen, obviously Frank and Eddie have been doing shows now together with obviously Turkey.
Frank and Eddie's besties, to be fair.
Besties, yeah, absolutely.
They're best.
Did you see the little subplot of Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn this week? Quite a few things going on there. Did you see any of it, Billy?
I think Eddie Hearn was bullying him on the stage. I think he was using aggressive slurs to him and talking about, you know, potentially doing a P. Diddy on Shalom. And
I don't know what you're referring to, but he said, according to Hearn, he said, and Shalom, he said he was going to knock him out. I don't know what you're referring to, though, you weirdo.
Listen, I think Eddie's going to end up doing a P. Diddy on him, if I'm honest. You know, in back of one of them changing rooms somewhere. Ben Shalom's going to be very sorry if he crosses Eddie like that. He's a big fella now and he's fit. Could go on for hours. But anyway, besides that, what I will say is that, look, Ben Shalom's very new in the game. You know, look, we've just done the Dan Aziz fight for Louis Edmondson with him and Spencer Brown, to be fair. And big thanks to Goldstar, Spencer Brown and Turkey, you know, for making that happen. So a big shout out to them boys. To be fair, they stuck to their word on everything. And we finally come to an agreement with Ben Shalom. He's hard work, but he's probably a little bit insecure, thinking everybody's after his job. And, you know, I'm going to lose my job. He's one of them ones, you know what I mean? He's not taking any chances here. He don't really want to interact with these big promoters. And look at Frank and Eddie now. It's for the best. When you put your guard down and you decide to work with these people rather than against these people, you get much further on in life. And look, Eddie's, you know, not worried about Ben Shalom. Frank's certainly not worried about Ben Shalom. So I think that really, look, Ben Shalom's got a good stable of fighters. He's got, you know, some good people around him. And, you know, show by show, he's improving that little bit more of he's not as dry, is he? You know, he was a bit dry. So it was sort of one of them, KUGAN. You couldn't he was very, very dry, brother. But he's all right now, to be fair. He's not too bad. He still don't want Whitaker and Louis Edmondson, but, you know, if we beat Aziz, then he's got no choice. I'll get Eddie to slap him up.
Yeah, listen, big fight for Louis Edmondson on that card against Aziz. So it's a great matchup, I think, coming up in October.
Yeah, I think, look, Louis Edmondson's at the stage of his career now. He's in that Who Wants Him club. Because, you know, he can punch, he can fight, he can box. We haven't seen him do the rounds. You know, I've seen him spar and do the rounds. People haven't. But he's in that Who Wants Him club. And for me to bring someone through now and try to, you know, put them onto World Honours would be just a dream sealed for me. Like, say, look, I've outdo that. It's a very hard sport, you know, because at the moment, every man and his dog wants to be on Turkey's card in Saudi. And obviously, look, Turkey's putting a lot of shows on now, and the shows that he's putting on there, they're not really called shows anymore. They're events. And to be a part of them and be around them. And I can see why Eddie and Frank want to continue doing business with them, with Turkey. I know people think because of the money, but to be fair to Eddie and Frank, you know, he's took the whole thing to another level. Because don't forget, Eddie and Frank are a business. They're there to put on the best fights they can put on, but also they have to manage their own account. And, you know, with Turkey, he surpasses his own pocket, and he wants just to see the best fights. And to have someone in our sport like that, we should be very, very lucky. I see people moaning, but when now do you hear of a YouTube channel overshadowing a Saudi Arabian card in Saudi Arabia? Going back 12 months ago, the YouTubers were outshining the world champions. Now the case is the YouTubers have been put back where they belong, and boxing now is, you know, the cream of the crop again, thanks to Turkey. He's the man that we should be thanking for that.
Yeah, I mean, you fought on the undercard of a YouTube show.
That's what I mean. I need to get out there now and get old Turkey on board and do something. Probably fight on the old Gypsy Camp or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Get an old show put on there. Maybe if we show Turkey how the Gypsies live over here, bring them on the site. I've got a caravan here you can stay in, come and live the lifestyle for a week, and put one in the backfield or so.
Or you could just do what you've done your whole life, get yourself fit and get back in the fucking ring.
Yeah, KUGAN, do you know what? It's something that, look, I touched on it, you know, earlier on. It's very difficult because you're having peace when you're away from it and you miss it when you're not around it as well, you know. And look, I've been boxing since I've been 5. I've been in the game for 30 years. And 2 year, 3 year, even 5 year wouldn't seem to me as a long time. But I understand age catches up with people. So, you know, we was in talks, strong talks with Eubank's team about the Eubank fight.
When?
But how Eubank touched a few weeks ago, about
Right.
a month ago now,
Right.
met his manager and conversations, and you know, we was more or less where we needed to be. The only thing was stopping, obviously, things moving forward and progressing was the warm up fight. Now, I heard him state himself he didn't want to fight Canelo because he didn't want to be a year out the ring and fight someone like that. Well, you can't expect me to be out the ring for 3 years and just jump into a big fight because of money. Thankfully, um, you know, I don't need boxing as a financial side. I need it in my life because I grew up with it and I want to be part of it somewhere. And I would love to be a part of one of these big events. But, you know, the structure in place, everybody who's ever worked with me knows I was never an athlete anyway. I've always got out of shape. They just tell me how much I was getting, when I was getting it, and I'd be there. I've never once missed weight in my life. So it's not a case of, you know, not getting ready, because if a structure was put in place, okay, you'll have a warm up fight, and that's on the cards there for the fight fans. I'll be right up for it. But until that's put in there, I know people's got a lot on their mind, and sometimes people get, you know, chucked on the back burner and forgot about. And I'm not too bothered if I get forgot about, or someone says, "All right, well here you go." A promoter goes, "Right, we'll give you that, we'll do that," and you know, we'll earn on the big fight. You know, business has got to be fair, and I'd be happy to do so. So we'll see where it goes anyway.
What do you think about Eubank kind of declining, obviously, the first one with Canelo there? We don't know what the exact offer was for the money, but we understand the offer to fight Hamza Shiraz, which was made by, well, it would have come through Turkey, Frank Warren, was in excess of 5 million, which Eubank has decided not to take both those opportunities in his next fight. Obviously, he's fighting.
Yeah, look, Eubanks, you know, Eubanks made a few quid. I know one thing, that money there was over probably 4 times, 4.5 times than what he's getting next. Because I know he's not even getting the big M next. He's quite a bit off that. But he opts to fight an opposition where he can, you know, pick up the IBO and, you know, say that he's a legitimate world champion. If I'm not mistaken, how many years ago did he hold the IBO and tried to declare himself as a world champion?
I was at that fight. I can't remember which fight it was, but there was a fight which
Roughly how
he
many years?
trained
Roughly how many years
six,
ago?
six, 7 years ago.
So what he's doing now, he's doing what he did 6 or 7 years ago, and still, you know, claiming the same thing. Where, you know, okay, Hamza Shiraz, young, strong, talented, young lion, but if you're going to be in the game, and you can't refuse them sort of fights. That's like Andy Lee refusing to fight me. He didn't refuse to fight me. You know, even though I was a mandatory, but even still before then, he still signed up and rolled the dice. That's proper boxing, man. True men with boxing arts. I mean, to fight people who you know you're going to beat, and, you know, it's a 80-20 in your favour, you know, that's a bit, you know, it's not very
Yeah.
optimistic for him
Yeah.
to do so. And even,
I was going to say, I don't think
sorry,
if Eubank picks up the IBO, listen, we know Eubank won the IBO years ago. I don't think Eubank, if he picks up the IBO title, would consider himself like a full legitimate world champion. I don't think he would. I think
yeah, but that makes him,
Chris
yeah,
Eubank knows what belts are out there that are regarded
yeah,
as.
but can I just say, Kugan, okay, if he wins the IBO, yeah, he can look back on his videos when he won it before and think, what a stupid prick I was, talking like a wanker. Yeah, that's what he will do. You know, but to refuse, look, even the Kazakhstani, he was mandatory challenger for the WBO title. Now, I worked with Frank Warren for a long time. Me and Frank tried to make that fight not once, 10 times, a lot of times, and it was just too hard to work with at the time. When Ramirez was super middleweight world champion, I got elevated to fight I was mandatory to fight Ramirez. He was a big name. I signed to fight him, but he vacated. You got to step up and take them challenges and take them sort of fights if you want to, leave a name in the sport. Look, for me, I've won everything from Southern Area, British, Commonwealth, European, international, two-time, two-weight world champion. I can sleep well at night, and the icing on the cake is I can lay there knowing I'll be in. So look, they offered me a lot of money. I'll be honest with you, it wasn't pettings I was throwing, and fair play to them. It wasn't over money that the fight ain't materialised. Then, talks still haven't really been broken up, really. So there's still something there, but I just need a plan in front of me to move forward. And if none of these other promoters are not interested, my man GBM Izzy, he's there, always there to willing to take part. If any of the big companies want to get behind and come in for a conversation with us to work with us, I'm happy to do it. I'm not worried who the promoter is. I just want to make sure that I get in the ring physically fit and well, not just, lose 3.5 stone. And then in 3 years. I would 100 because I value me out more than.
Bill, he's just cutting out there. Bill?
Well, sort your shit.
Sure.
Sort your shit clobber out, mate, that you got from your last holiday in Turkey when you went over to Bangladesh. Sort it out, mate.
Let me ask you just one more question before I let you go. What are the chances that we see you back in the ring in the next?
You can ask me 10 more questions.
What's the chance of seeing you back in the ring in the next 6 months?
Listen, KUGAN, again, I touched upon it. I really, really miss boxing. I really, really want to be part of it so badly. But then there's the bullshit what comes with it. So if I was to sit down with someone and go, right, here we go, there's your plan. This is what we're doing. Here we are. Then that's not a problem. I'll fly off to training camp. I need 4 months for a comeback fight. Then obviously a build up to a big fight. So really, 7 to 8 months worth of training with 2 fights ain't a bad time frame. So I can do that easily. And the one thing is, I'll still be the baddest super middleweight. The baddest super middleweight, in my opinion, definitely in fucking Britain and Europe, because there's not many out there at the minute I'm watching that's really floating the boat, if I'm honest. I mean, Eubank, he's begging for the Conor Benn fight. Conor Benn, don't forget, is coming up really from welterweight. Conor Benn wants that fight. I know he's got a few, hurdles to get across. And that fight with them two's got to happen because both of them will earn good money because of the history what's gone on between the family. But let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Right, William, thank you very much for talking to IFLTV as always. It's 9:30. I would like to get this interview.
How you getting on now? How spoke to Umar?
Bill, thank you very much for talking to IFLTV, and we'll catch up with you again soon.